My mother-in-law's smug voice still haunts me. Family always forgives.
You'll see.
She was so certain she had me figured out. What she didn't realize was that I'd already discovered what they'd secretly packed in our minivan, right next to my 3 innocent children's car seats. The revenge I unleashed destroyed their lives completely, and I sleep like a baby every night. If you've ever dealt with manipulative in-laws who think they can walk all over you, buckle up for this one. Smash that subscribe button because today's story is about the moment I stopped being the good daughter-in-law and became their worst nightmare. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. Let's get into it. It should have been just another boring Saturday. Load up our Toyota Sienna with juice boxes and goldfish crackers, strap in our 3 little ones, Mia, age 4, Tyler, 6, and Bella, 9, and make the 3-hour drive south to the annual Rodriguez family barbecue. Standard family obligation. Overcooked burgers, warm beer, and the kind of forced socializing that makes you grateful for your own couch. I always drive on these trips. My husband Carlos gets motion sickness on winding roads, plus his tendency to accelerate like we're fleeing a crime scene makes my nerves frayed. The kids were doing their typical backseat routine, arguing over who got to hold the portable DVD player next, while some animated movie played for the dozenth time. Everything seemed perfectly ordinary, boringly predictable. About an hour and a half into the drive, Carlos suddenly tensed up beside me. The color drained from his face like someone had pulled a plug. "We need to turn around," he said quietly, his voice tight with something I couldn't identify. I chuckled, that automatic laugh you do when someone says something unexpected. "Turn around? Why?" He didn't respond right away, just kept staring out the windshield like he was processing something terrible.
Then, barely above a whisper, "Please,
just trust me. Turn around right now." The laughter died in my throat. Carlos isn't dramatic. At all. This is a man who once calmly extinguished a kitchen fire while simultaneously helping Tyler with homework. His superpower is staying level-headed when everything goes sideways. I took the next exit, one of those random small-town stops with a gas station and not much else. The moment we left the main highway toward Mexico, I watched his entire body relax slightly, like he'd been holding his breath. "Okay," I said, pulling into a rest stop. "What's happening?" "Just drive," he said. "Anywhere except toward the border." The kids were starting to pick up on the tension. "Mama, are we lost?" Mia asked from her car seat. "We need to go back and get something," I said, scrambling for an explanation. "What did we forget?" Tyler wanted to know. "I'll explain later. Can we get ice cream?" Bella chimed in hopefully. My throat felt like sandpaper. I couldn't form words. We drove in tense silence for 30 minutes, through desert towns with names like Dusty Creek and Silver Mesa, past endless scrubland under a blindingly bright Arizona sky. Finally, Carlos pointed to a deserted access road that disappeared into nowhere. "Pull over there." I turned onto what was basically a dirt path leading to some abandoned mining equipment. He immediately got out and walked to the back of our minivan. I sat there, hands shaking on the steering wheel, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. After what felt like forever, he returned to my window. "You need to see this," he said. His voice was eerily calm, but his eyes looked haunted. I followed him to the back of the van. He unzipped a navy blue gym bag I vaguely remembered his mother asking us to transport. Said their sedan was overloaded with food for the barbecue. Just one small favor. Nothing major. What I saw inside made my knees buckle. Wrapped in what looked like innocent workout clothes were clear plastic bags. Several of them. Definitely not protein powder. Definitely not supplements. Definitely not anything that should be within 1,000 miles of my children. My lungs forgot how to work. Every muscle from my neck to my ribs seized up like my body was rejecting reality. "They put this in our van," I gasped. "With our babies." Carlos nodded, his jaw clenched tight. "How did you figure it out?" I whispered. He stared at the bag for a long moment. The way my mother kept checking her watch when she handed it to us. How relieved they looked when we drove away. How they insisted we take this specific route. He rubbed his face with his hands. It all clicked right before we hit the checkpoint. I stumbled back to the driver's seat, my legs feeling like they might give out. Carlos's parents, the people who'd raised him, who I'd been trying to win over for 8 years, had turned us into unwitting drug smugglers. With my precious babies strapped into their car seats, my phone started ringing. Maria, my mother-in-law. Then Roberto, my father-in-law. Then Maria again. I let every call go to voicemail. We both understood what came next without speaking. The drive back to the Rodriguez house felt like drifting through a nightmare. The kids had dozed off, worn out by the unexpected detour and confusion. Seeing their innocent faces in the rearview mirror made my fury burn white-hot. We arrived at their modest ranch house at 4 p.m. The ceramic Virgin Mary statue in their front yard seemed to be judging us. I retrieved their spare key from under the terracotta planter where it had lived for years, typical of Roberto's casual approach to security. We entered their empty home. They were undoubtedly already at the family gathering, probably wondering where we were. The air was thick with the scent of last night's carnitas, and the lavender incense Maria burned religiously. Without saying a word, Carlos placed the navy gym bag just inside their entryway. We locked up and drove away in silence. When Maria called that night, her voice dripped with fake concern. "Mija, we were so worried. Where did you go? Is everyone all right?" I let the quiet stretch between us. "Where's our bag?" she finally asked, dropping the pretense. "We returned it to your house," I said evenly. "If it was so important, you should have kept it yourself." The silence on her end told me everything. She knew that I knew. "This family is finished," I said. "Lose our number." I ended the call. But naturally, that wasn't the conclusion. It never is with people like the Rodriguez family. They appeared on our doorstep 4 days later. No advance warning, no courtesy call. Just rang our bell like they were delivering Girl Scout cookies instead of facing consequences. I stepped onto our front porch and pulled the door shut behind me, creating a wall between them and my family. "We need to talk," Maria said, flashing that manipulative smile she'd perfected over decades. "You mean about the illegal substances you hid in our van?" I said without emotion. "With your grandchildren inside?" Roberto shuffled his feet. "We didn't think it was such a big deal. Times are tough, you know." "You never help us anyway," Maria added, as if this justified their betrayal. There it was. The guilt trip. The same emotional blackmail they'd wielded throughout our entire marriage. "You didn't just lie to us," I said, my voice ice-cold. "You put our children in danger. You turned us into criminals without our knowledge." "You're overreacting," Maria started to protest. "We're finished," I interrupted. "No more calls. No more visits. You will never see those kids again. This ends now." Maria's fake sweetness cracked slightly. "Family always forgives," she said. "You'll see." I went back inside and turned the deadbolt. 4 days later, my world exploded. I arrived at the kids' daycare for pickup, and they were gone. "Oh, the grandparents got them," the director said brightly. "They said you'd arranged it." My vision went black around the edges. I have no memory of the drive to the Rodriguez house. I just remember suddenly standing in their living room, which looked like a toy store had detonated. Electronics everywhere. A gaming system that cost more than our mortgage payment. Helium balloons. A chocolate cake bigger than our dining table. My children were practically vibrating with sugar and excitement, clutching expensive gadgets like they'd struck gold. Carlos's parents were performing the role of doting grandparents, something they'd never authentically been. This wasn't affection. This was psychological manipulation. "Time to go," I announced firmly. The kids protested, naturally. They were being showered with yes by people who'd previously been masters of no. As we collected their belongings, Maria called out in that syrup-sweet tone, "They'll come back to us. They always do." She said it with absolute certainty, like a prophecy. That evening, I turned to Carlos and said, "We're leaving Arizona." He didn't argue. Didn't need explanation. "Your cousin mentioned that tech job in Portland," I said. "Your brother lives up there." "The position is still open," he confirmed. "Perfect. Let's disappear." We vanished. Not in some dramatic fashion, Just quietly, methodically. We blocked every number, forwarded our mail, and told no one where we were headed. The kids adapted remarkably well. New schools, new friends, new grandparents who actually wanted to help instead of exploit us. 7 months later, my phone buzzed with a voicemail from Carlos's cousin. Hey, your in-laws are asking everyone where you moved. Maria seems pretty upset. Family should stick together, you know? I deleted it immediately. Then, almost a year after our escape, an email appeared in my inbox from Carlos's sister. Subject line: Urgent, family emergency. Roberto and Maria had been arrested. Not for being reckless this time, but for actually committing the crime they'd tried to pin on us. They'd attempted to smuggle contraband across the border themselves. No family members to use as cover this time. Just two people in their late 50s who still believed consequences were for other people. They got caught. Naturally. The email concluded with desperate pleas for bail money, for me to remember what family means, and help them in their hour of need. I typed back 8 words. We helped once already. Good luck to you. They accepted plea agreements. 3.5 years each. Long enough to reflect on their choices, assuming they possessed that capability. Which I seriously question. Looking back now, I feel nothing but relief about cutting them off. Zero regrets. We've built a life that belongs to us, chaotic and imperfect, but genuine. The children smile more often. Carlos sleeps through the night. And I haven't had to decode manipulation disguised as love in a very long time. So tell me, was my response too harsh, or not harsh enough? Let me know in the comments below. I genuinely read every response. If this story hit home for you, slam that like button and subscribe for more tales about cutting toxic people out of your life. And if you've got your own story about standing up to family bullies, share it below. Sometimes the ultimate revenge is simply refusing to play their game anymore. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next video.